Welcome back. Front pages of the newspapers. We do have a public affairs analyst in-house. Mr. Dotun Ojon joins us this morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good
to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you as
Let's
well.
go straight into it without wasting further time because we're almost running out of time. Let's start off first with our very first newspaper right there on the screen. We're going to call for the Nigerian Tribune. Let's see what the Nigerian Tribune has in store for us. Senate seeks permanent military base in Kwara South as Army steps up action. So looking for a permanent military base. Federal government begs ASU to shelve strike. JAM screens 176 underage candidates for admission. Exposing children to e-waste pollution can cause hypertension, according to experts. 139 million Nigerians living in poverty, according to World Bank. I'm going to start with that story. World Bank came out yesterday to make a very strong statement that has gotten a few Nigerians confused, because the same World Bank has said, you guys are in the right direction, keep going. But now they're saying, policies are good, but they're not actually trickling down the pocket of Nigerians. So they projected 4.4% economic growth by 2027, not now. They say wait. And then they put up these numbers, 139 million Nigerians living in poverty, according to World Bank. It says reform must translate into better living standards for citizens. I mean, what's your take on this? Let's start.
Okay, so the concept of leadership is the concept of change. But beyond the concept of change is the issue or the concept of change management. Now, what is change? Change is about removing the chain of habit from the neck of the people. They have done something consistently over the years, and it's called the chain of habit. So change is about removing that chain. Now, change management is about oiling the chain so that when you are pulling the chain off, you don't kill the people that are supposed to benefit from the change. Now, when you take this to governance, you discover that one of the things, when you talk about reforms, one of the things that reform does generally is to cause a bit of discomfort. But it is strategic for you to think that in the process of breaking the chain of habit, you must not kill the beneficiary of the change. That is what happened when this government started. Reform, fantastic. And the result, I am a believer of the reforms that they are doing. But of course, you know, I've repeatedly said it, that my study of economists over the world has shown that when you are breaking this chain of habit, you must pay a particular attention to the people. Why? Democracy is a government of figure and feeling. Once you see a government that relies so much on figure without considering the feeling, it may result into failure at the end of the day. And that's why when the World Bank was saying, oh, the reforms, they will not talk about the fact that the concept of democratic leadership is about the people. And when you are reforming without considering what the people think, what the people believe, or what the people are feeling, at the end of the day, the people are going to fight you back. And this is exactly what has happened. How did it get this complicated? Now, in 2017, the definition of somebody who is in poverty is $2.50 per day. But that has been reviewed in 2021. It is now $3 per day. If you take it with the current reality of maybe 1,450 naira to a dollar, you discover that that's about 4,000 something per day. By the time you put all of this money together, you times it by 30. That's going to give you about 130,000 naira per month. Now, your minimum wage in the country is 70,000. In fact, when
not implemented
yet. Yeah, okay. So implemented in some sectors and some states are still struggling. This does not even capture the woman in my village. You remember that we can shout hallelujah in commercial centers like Lagos. When you consider the feelings and the experiences of the people living in the villages, you discover that this 70,000 we are talking about, that we are even saying is not enough, really, when you get to the village, people are still struggling to get 30,000 naira per month. When you put this figure together, let's calculate it within the reality of the population of maybe 250 or 250 million people. You will see that the figure of the World Bank is also a bit generous. It does not cover the aspect of rural dwellers and the reality of what rural dwellers are facing. And this does not mean that the reforms are not going to work, this does not mean that the reforms are actually completely a failure, but with the feeling of the people, the government needs a lot of strategic intervention. Unfortunately, when you look at a nation like India, because India had gone through exactly what we're going through, and in terms of population, you can see they also have the population. But if you check the World Bank result, you will discover that India has actually moved up about 5% in terms of global poverty. They've moved up well. What did they do? They did almost the same thing that President Buhari wanted to do, which is conditional cash transfer to the people and all of that. But the difference between that is that when you say you want to transfer cash to the people, I was in Abuja, when the government tried to transfer cash to, they just went to the marketplace, picked people randomly, transfer money to them, took the remaining back to Asura and to the ministry.
Well, how long ago was this?
That was when Buhari was there.
Okay.
Former President Buhari was there. They took the remaining back. It means that corruption is standing in the way of the effect and the benefit of our reforms. Majority of those people who come out to shout reform today are putting themselves in the process of reformation. The problem with reformation is that the people can talk about the pain, but the tragedy is that once a reformer positions himself to be a beneficiary of reforms, then the people can never get a benefit of reform.
What about the 330 billion that the president had talked about disbursing to 8 million Nigerian households?
Okay, so here is it. The data, the politics, and the process. These three things are very, very important. Number one, talk about the data. How have we come about data to ensure that the right set of people who actually need this get what we are talking about? I know about 3 people. In fact, one of them is presently in the US, who still gets benefits from government, presently in the US. And you see some people who are not supposed to be part of it. So when you mention corruption, it's not limited to the people in government. And that's why I mentioned politics in the process. There are people also who have positioned themselves to hijack the gain of government and stop it from getting to people it's supposed to get to. And these are political people. How do we ensure that a commissioner in the state does not submit lists of political people, brothers and family members to benefit from this thing? This is one of the things that we must be very critical about. Beyond what the government is doing, the process and the politics are extremely important.
Just to add quickly, the Punch newspaper, the presidency debunked the World Bank statement. Yeah. They've also put out a response. A response there, it says, presidency rejects World Bank's poverty report that said Nigerians living in poverty rose from 115 million in 2023 to 139 million in 2025. And the presidency disputes data, defense reforms. World Bank urges action on inflation and poverty. So here's the presidency saying you lied. In other words, but this is the same presidency that accepted what the World Bank had said when the going was good, because World Bank, I think early this year or last year said reforms are taking shape. They're looking good. Presidency said yes. They even, we had a guest join us here where he also alluded to the World Bank statement and said, oh yes, the World Bank is right, it's taking form. But now, why are they rejecting it?
So the rejection, actually, if you look at the statement very carefully, they are not saying World Bank is lying. They are only saying we should put it in perspective. Because in reality, what they are saying is that it's not that when you make a head count, that you can make a head count of about 10 million people that have entered poverty, that have fallen under the poverty line. What they are saying is that even those, indirectly, what they are saying is that even those any 70,000 per month,
are still
the World Bank has classified them as poor people. And the complication in that also is the fact that when the World Bank is doing all of this analysis, when they are looking at the purchasing power parity, that's the power of nations when they compare their productivity and their sustainability and their purchasing power, Nigeria falls downward. Now they also look at the reality of the necessities of life, food, clothing, and shelter. Today, you need prayer point to get accommodation in Lagos.
Oh, yes.
All of those things are put together to arrive at this. So when you're talking about reform, usually when you concentrate on one, you may not be able to get the expected result. For example, as we speak now, there's no clear-cut housing regulation that prevents people from not doing some certain things. So somebody can wake up, a house built by his grandfather who died, erected by his father who has already passed, He can decide to say, oh, I just bought cement for 10,400, and as a result of that, I'm moving this out from 200,000 to 1 million. There's no regulation. All of these, our little actions, contribute to what World Bank is saying. It's not just a practical of, oh, the government is this, the government is that. Our little action, unregulated action. In fact, India went to the point of saying that if you enter the supermarket with a student ID, you are going to get some products and produce in a certain price. That's the way to go to fight poverty, because they know that somebody in school may not have the kind of money people that are working hard. So all of those control will lead to their economic growth, and this poverty that we are talking about is also of perception. Perception. The government is not concerned about the perception. They are only concerned about, oh, this is what we believe in. And input also is necessary from all stakeholders. For me, I think government must do more in the area of agri. They must do more in the area of housing. They must do more in the area of controlling where people live. By the time they do all of these things, together.
Sorry to bother, we just had a review of some of the ministers, assessing them. And we also have a minister of housing. We also have minister of agriculture. I don't know, what's your assessment on this so far? Do you think they are living up to the billing?
Okay, so for agriculture, 2 years may not be enough for you to actually say, because beyond policy, executive is supposed to pursue policy to execution. 2 years may not be, but the roadmap they have, really fantastic roadmap. I have peeped into it. But my problem is that, you see, for housing, it is still the same old template. Lagos had a fantastic idea of the Lagos home. I don't know whether I've told you a story about it. I'd applied 2 times. Before they commission those homes, they are finished. When you now trace it further, you discover that it's falling back to the people in government. And when you have this same template, it means that people will need to play politics for everything, to the point that those who are supposed to benefit from it can never benefit from it. It's the same template that the federal government is doing. I understand the fact that they want to have housing in 774 local government and all of that. But again, we must reduce politicizing policy of government that is supposed to reduce poverty. So when you have this template that, oh, I'm just going to build, building is not just building. Building is majorly for regulation. For example, government has an estate here, and this estate is a standard estate. 2-bedroom flat should be along this line, and every landlord will queue behind that fact. But once you don't build to regulate, once you build in the name of politics, so that I will give to my neighbor and all of that, all of this are the things.
The landlords will ask you that, is it government that is buying cement for them, or is it government that is, you know, is the government not the one selling the land to them?
It's part of the mentality that we all need to fight. You see, making a nation work is beyond. One of the reasons why they say that a lot is because government had repeatedly told them to tighten their belt, while those in government are living in opulence. If you actually lead by example and you say this is what you want to do, people will line up. We need this Nigeria to work. And I'm sure that when leaders lead by example, followership is going to do same.
Okay. I want us to quickly touch on the Punch newspaper. I'll take a few headlines and then we'll get into the stories. Presidency rejects World Bank's poverty report. Joe had read that earlier. Strike. Federal government ASU in high-stakes talks. Fraud. Interpol arrests wanted Nigerian in Argentina. Labour Party senators shrink to 4 as Chukwu joins APC. Wow. Woo. Dangote refinery engineers on war path over redeployment. Nigeria lost $10 billion to Northeast conflict, according to the United Nations. Opposition slams governors and states IGR soars by 50%. Christian killings, federal government disagrees as Khan backs U.S. senator. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So I think there's the need for us to continue to have conversation around our security. And I've said it before. The complication is, when you talk about security, it's not the absence of crime. It is the response to crime that determines whether a community is safe or not. the way we respond to crime in this part is not good enough. And it's because we have an old template about response to crime, and it starts with security. Right. Let's start with the personnel. When you see any personnel today, either police or anything, you discover that they have a 40 personnel. My friend was telling me, we were gisting about it, and I said, an officer in the police, for example, with all modesty, my driver earns more than an ASP in the police. And that's the truth. And now you will now discover that we have got this template, and what have we done with the template? Any organization, virtually every organization that you enter today, you discover that the least paid person in the organization are the security. It's a 40 template that I don't know how we got that, but we have adopted that. And as long as we have that, that will open door for corruption. And I've said it repeatedly, that we are not fighting banditry in military. What they are fighting in the military now is corruption. And the problem is not with the gun-carrying member of the military. It is with the money-carrying member of the military. You have seen now, my friend was kidnapped, the national president of Affairs Youth Wing.
Yeah.
And after he was released, he had told the story publicly. Because they knew it's a big one among, they kidnapped a lot of them, they knew it's the biggest among them. So they made him do the coordination of how ransom would be paid. But this is what they discovered. They discovered that for those 3 or 4 points where ransom fear of the people is that this money that we are just mentioning, where are they going to? It's not that Nigeria does not have capacity to borrow more economically. But here is that when you are borrowing for progress, please do not allow the money to enter people's pockets.
But can they really stop that? Because these are the same people that will say before the money gets to them, there's a lot of backlog here and there.
Our own kind of corruption is a legal corruption. What legal corruption is, from the time you are drafting your budget, you have made provision for it. You have made provision for stealing within the budget. So
you've padded it.
Yes, it becomes illegal. For example, this cup is sold for 2 naira, and I've written into the budget that I want is 6 naira. So it's a legal corruption. So from the destiny of any nation is in their fiscal document, which is called the budget. So we have to go back to the budget and look at it very carefully and say, okay, how is this cup 7 naira for God's sake?
But experts have also looked at it carefully. They've said there's some repetition in the budget, the fiscal budget, every year.
I was part of those who
exactly.
Because I looked at for 3 years consecutively, cutlery was coming up.
There.
For example, in Asura. Then I was wondering, this party must be an unending party.
Yes.
It's looking like
there's a party that happens every year.
Like,
cutlery is always.
And these are sensitive matters. It makes your government look very unserious. It's not about administration. I was in Italy, and I went for a public discourse on the perception of nation. You see, when the professor was talking, I was almost crying, because all of these little things are the ones that come together to tell of the power, the perception, and the future capacity of your nation. When you continue to put cutlery, who will see you as a serious-minded people? And all of these things happen because Nigerians don't look at the document to critique it. And once Nigerians begin to look at it, the government say they are opposition. And you remember, Obasanjo has mentioned it before, that opposition in Africa is about enmity.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning to review the papers. And to our virtual audience, I was trying to see if I can take some comments on YouTube before we wrap up the show, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we have enough time for that. But thank you for being a part of the show. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. I need to actually take this comment. Someone saying this man is speaking so much sense. That's Idaibi Ibisiki Anichinedu
Brown.
I need to clarify this. He says, another truthful and fearless analyst, Dotun, you'll soon be blacklisted from appearing on television. Just like what happened to Ikechukwu Amechi, who talks without minding whose ox is God. And Chinedu, we have told you that Ikechukwu Amechi is on holiday.
He's on holiday. He'll
will
be back.
Soon be
Have
back.
no fear.
He went to spend some time to rest, like every normal person does from time to time. Ikechukwu Amechi was not blacklisted. He's still one of our analysts. Thank you so much for joining us.
You need power and you need to eat. That's why you just sip coffee, just to keep going.
See something, it's a very funny place that we are in. Once you see something that is good about the government, once you say it now, oh, you are pro-government.
You have collected money. All right, we'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Conversations continue on YouTube. We're streaming live, News Central TV. Please continue to engage with our content. My name is Olive MOD.
My name is Joe Hansen. He's Mr. Dotun Ojon. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. More programs coming your way. Au revoir.